this time we've stepped up the game, but maybe just to welcome our viewers, welcome to Inside Modern Wellness Podcast. I think this is the first time where we actually are stepping up the game. There's been we last recorded in December, and this past week I spent time editing the last. We have our recording which we won't publish, but this is going to be like the first ultimate one. But we have quite an interesting one that I'm going to put out tomorrow. Okay. Which we spoke with a psychologist around a lot of different mental health issues, and I'm excited about it, man. But I'm excited about today because today I think today we are solidifying the game. We are already saying now let's actually do the right thing. There's no turning back from this. So we are really doing it. So to our viewers, Inside Modern Wellness Podcast, every 2 weeks we'll be posting to start off. We're hoping eventually we'll do at least once a week eventually. Yeah. But just to start us off, I mean, we've got so many things to do. You've got your work, I've got my work, running a business is an everyday thing. So it really takes a lot of time. But I think we now gonna, at least every 2 weeks, we know that we have something coming out, and I'm excited about this, man. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, plus we'll get more efficient at
doing this
more
things.
Natural and
to be exactly. So that is really the key around it. Otherwise, how are you, brother? How are you doing?
No, I've been okay.
Yes. How's work? Are you still in the hospital? Based in the hospital?
I'm still working in the hospital.
Yes.
So yes, I did stop personal training.
Yes, you did.
October. It's around the same time as you.
As me, yes.
Yes.
Why did we leave that nice career, but?
I was a bit disappointed in the innovation that was
and I
that
get
could
you.
thrive within it.
I get you.
So I was trying to do a lot of things that perhaps I didn't gauge correctly, or maybe I did stuff too early. Maybe it's not time for that yet. Okay. So, besides that, I think I like more the discussion of training.
Yes.
Rather than training.
You are a training intellectual. The last time we had a conversation, and I was like, damn, this guy's a training intellectual. Like you really go deeper in a lot of issues. And I think one place that will be great for you is in the high performance research space. Mm-hmm. You should look at getting into that someday. I'm slowly moving away from more fitness to more wellness.
Yes.
So more wellness in terms of building business systems around wellness. So how do we build businesses around wellness? What products can we put out? What, like one of the things I want to do with hotels is, South Africa is such a beautiful place with beautiful places. And you find that if you travel to small towns, you find these bread and breakfasts that are really nice, but they don't really get a lot of people coming in. And you want them to market themselves differently. So how do you then sort of put together some form of a wellness environment around those accommodation spaces?
That's
where
then
exactly make it more attractive to travelers. Like if you go to a space, to a small B&B, which can still give you a spa and some other wellness activities, it's more attractive than just a B&B where you're going to sit and just chill the whole day. They obviously can't compete with the hotels, but I think they have to be innovative in how they do their business. So those are things I'm looking at. Those are products and services I'm trying to put out there. It's been a bit hard, but I'm excited about the new sport.
I mean, I've seen Dubai.
Yes.
There's a hotel, Cyro.
Yes. Have you seen Cyro? But
yes, I have seen.
Jeez, man, I saw that thing, and it's one of the things that gave me the confidence that my idea of wellness moving into travel and wellness merging in that level is going to be something big in the future. Yeah. Because that when they're doing it in the Dubai market, so Dubai, Saudi, all those Middle Eastern countries, where they are going now is more wellness, travel, wellness tourism than anything else. So, I mean, the oil is finished, everything else is finished. And they are transforming themselves into serious wellness tourist destinations. Like some of them, I saw this resort being built in Saudi, man. I'm like, these guys are visionary. This is a freaking desert. But they're able to build such incredible spaces. And in Africa, generally, we have, in terms of environment and nature, we have beautiful places. I mean, travel around this country,
I need to go to Neisner.
You need to, oh my God, bro.
Go to Neisner.
You need to go to Neisner, bro. It's out of this world. Like it's unreal. Like it's unreal. So anyway, so this country has more natural resources around wellness.
Yes.
Around the concept of wellness travel, of which if we were smart, we could beat the whole world when it comes to wellness tourism.
100%.
You know, and 100%. Unfortunately, we're a bit slower in implementing things. But yeah, but I think that's where the world is moving. You know, wellness tourism is going to be a big thing. And how you more physiotherapy, right? You focus a lot on physiotherapy, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
That's easier. So I felt that when you're in personal training, I felt that the culture in personal training eventually becomes about personality politics.
Oh, yeah.
So it becomes about who can become more famous, who's got more charisma, rather than who's going to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's complex. It's complex in the sense that most personal trainers are trying to solve for weight loss, right? So solving for weight loss is almost a mission impossible. It's a mission impossible in the sense that sometimes you can do all the right things, but you also have so many things you can't control, and you find that therefore your result, the obtainance of the supposedly result, everyone is just measured on how the body looks.
Yeah.
And you find that not everyone gets that result, even though they're on the best program, even though they've got the best trainer, they've got the best eating plan. People don't necessarily get to where they're trying to get. And then you find that the personal trainers with charisma are the ones that are known as the good trainers, because they can say things, they can, they can present themselves better, market themselves better online. Yes. And therefore the culture for me then stops being about excellence in your work. It becomes about how much charisma you have. Mm-hmm. And eventually towards the end, I didn't enjoy it as much. This is why I used to do mentorship a lot, because I thought, let me just, I enjoyed the mentorship part more because it was more like giving back. But slowly I wanted to work my way out of it, because I felt that, it's the culture isn't great for the consumer. The culture might work for the business, but I wasn't happy with what the culture presents to the consumer. Mm-hmm. And you and I know that most of the bodies that people are trying to get may not necessarily get them without the extra things that people don't talk about in fitness. Mm-hmm. We want to have the cover model's body, but you and I have seen people prepping for cover shoots, and we know what they have to take. We know how they need to structure literally everything, from how they eat, from the types of drugs they take. And as a person that wants to just do, according to the textbook, there's very little room for that. So the culture becomes, for me, it became a bit uncomfortable. It became a little bit, it was great. I mean, I enjoyed the business, but eventually I thought I need something different.
I think the one thing is I would like it not to be about money for me.
Yes.
So it's difficult when you are having to pay rent, you have to pay to keep your business going, and it's not necessarily what people are looking for.
Exactly.
And I think coming from health and fitness is a divergence where, say in the hospital setting, I'm looking to get someone out of there as fast as possible.
Yes.
Whereas now you're thinking changes. How can I keep this person?
Exactly.
So you might even end up doing unnecessary things.
Exactly.
Adding unnecessary things to keep them interested.
To keep them as a client. 100%. So this is exactly what I mean. That then the culture becomes negatively affected. Then you're no longer pursuing excellence in trying to do the best for your client. You're literally now chasing financial targets.
Yeah.
And then for you to get the financial targets right, you have to have some form of charisma and some form of way of keeping the clients other than just the results. Because pure results in fitness training are hard. They are hard not because what we tell them that training does for them. It actually does that, but it's not as flamboyant looking as, you know what I mean? You train very hard. You probably train harder than me, and you wouldn't stand up in a bodybuilding stage, for example. But not because you're not strong. You're probably stronger than most bodybuilders, but because you don't take some of the stuff that they take. And people will look at the bodybuilder and say, no, that guy trains better than you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I think to some extent, the people who are going to be the best might be pre-selected by genetics. Anyway.
Yes.
So even if the average person were to take those compounds, they might not get where that person can get.
Exactly, yes.
So I don't think it's entirely up to illicit substances.
You'll be surprised. I know I used to have the same view. And over time, you find that there's people that are genetically more inclined to grow quite big. And there's people without necessarily the strongest genes. I'm probably one of the people without the strongest genes when it comes to that. But trust me, if I started taking steroids today, you will immediately see it. Yeah. Because I will grow size that I've never been my whole life. So the size is artificial, but you will immediately see it because you've known me for a while and you know how much size I've been. Because, I mean, you can push. I mean, your body limits your training. You grow to a certain level and then you stay there because biologically it's healthier to not be excessively overweight.
And essentially, to even grow more muscle beyond that, it's going to come with fat.
Exactly.
And that's not good for a bodybuilder.
Exactly.
So if you look at some of the best powerlifters or even sumo wrestlers will have the most muscle mass out of anybody. But it's all covered by fat.
Exactly.
And so you think, okay, well, what if that person lost all that fat? They'd lose the muscle too. So essentially, there is a trade-off.
There's a trade-off,
that you can't continuously grow muscle without attaining some bit of fat.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Anyway, brother, today what are we talking about? So today, I thought let's talk to the person that is gone beyond the motivation. So what happens every year is that we all go on holiday in December, and then we come back. And when we come back, what happens?
Vengeance.
We come back with vengeance. We come back and say, this is the year that I'm changing my life. I'm going to train hard. I'm going to work hard. This year, I'm just going crazy. And then what happens is that by April, and it's actually a good thing that we restarted now. So by April, you've dropped out. By April, your normal behavior has resumed and you've dropped out of gym, which is good for the gym business because, the lesser you come, they still make money.
Although the only way they actually make profits is by the people who don't
Exactly. Although, funny enough, I see it with the former gym that we're part of, Virgin. Virgin is slowly encouraging more people to come because in their thought process, in their strategy now, I think they realize that eventually when people don't come, they will eventually cancel memberships. Yeah. When they cancel membership, they will eventually, if they to re-sign on, they'll probably go to like a random, gym across the street because they'll be like, should I get myself into this massive contract? So Virgin has so many retention things now that they're doing. For example, every week I get like a free smoothie because I'm at gym at least twice. So if you've got I don't know if So you don't even have to be with Vitality now. As long as you come to gym twice a week on that app. So they've got an app that you use now. So if you come to gym twice a week, you get a smoothie or like some random rewards. So they bring in like a reward system that actually encourages you to at least be in gym twice a week. So in that way, if you actually use the gym, you are most likely to be a long-term member than someone who pays and then comes for 2 months and then doesn't come at all for the rest of the year, then starts again in December. So eventually those people tend to cancel their memberships. So as a way of retaining you, they want you to actually at least twice a week come to gym, which I think is in the long term, it makes sense for the business.
I mean, they need a lot more capacity.
Exactly. I think you might need to bring your mic a little bit closer.
But also I think where gyms should be focusing is on the younger population.
Okay.
People are getting more into watching powerlifting.
Yes.
Olympic weightlifting. And so the gyms get really full, and it's a lot of young people rather than older people. But I don't think Virgin Active would really cater for those people because everywhere you go, there's maximum of 2 squat racks.
Yeah.
And a power lifter can be at the squat rack for an hour.
Yes.
And so that's
a disadvantage for the business. Yes. Yeah, that's a disadvantage.
So if that's free advice, I guess.
Yeah.
If they wanted to.
No. So I think in the past, that was when I started a long time ago. There was a certain subculture of smaller gyms that actually focus on the professionals. In fact, there's still a few gyms that do that. If you go to Four Ways, there's one called the Yard Athletic. So they kind of have that element of let's have less people, but focused on more athletic endeavors. But over time, with a club like Virgin, I think it's about what is the mean number of gym members you have. So in a mean cave, you have small outliers of highly athletic people and another outlier of maybe people that come once in a while.
Yeah.
And then you've got this bigger number of average people that just want to come and walk on the treadmill or go to classes or maybe do a few machines. And then you have that smaller number that actually wants to work with hectic machines. So I think that is their thought process. So they look at
more lifestyle.
So it's more lifestyle, yes. So in fact, I think they're now more of they look at themselves more as a wellness company than a gym company. So if you're a wellness company, what is the thought process around you being serving people in terms of wellness? Yes, you have gyms as your main thing, and then maybe you have Kawaii as your next thing. But then, what other things can you kind of build? I think that's their thought process. I'm just reading it from seeing how they're positioning themselves in the market.
Long term, within the next decade or so,
then
it might just be more. I think it might be more profitable to cater to those athletes who are going to come to gym and would pay a premium. So maybe having a different set of gyms.
You'll be surprised. You know what? You'll be surprised. So 2 years ago, I had an opportunity to work with people that do high performance. So in Durban, there's a gym. What's the name of that place? High performance is something high performance, and it's funded by the government though. So they focus on more athletes, and you'll find that if you had a space that is premium for athletes, chances of you being profitable becomes limited because most athletes will not pay for a premium fee to train in a space. So that's always the tricky part. Right. And you'll find that you'll find that again in any funding model in any fitness business that bases on athletes, it is a greater chance of failure. Because first of all, you won't get enough athletes coming in, and then secondly, if you charge more, chances of people paying are very limited. Well, so high performance environment is a weird environment in terms of finance. So basically, you hardly make money in high performance sport unless you have that small percentile that is highly sponsored. You're highly sponsored. You've got you're winning gold medals. If you are number one in 100 meters or number one, number two, and maybe number three, you make a lot of money. If you're number four, no one knows you.
Oh yeah, it really is like that.
So that's high performance. So that's why it's always tricky to build gyms around high performance. I think you have the high performance element, but you always want to have the lifestyle element, because then the lifestyle element is what actually brings in more revenue.
Okay, that's your base.
Yeah, that's your base. So you always want to cater for that. I think that's always the tricky part. Unless if the gym is sponsored by like an entity, like maybe Olympic organization, and then they say this, athletes are going to come for free, like what they do in Durban. I think athletes train for free, but it's sponsored by like the provincial government or something. There's like a sponsorship element going on, and that way then it allows the gym to be sustainable.
All right.
Yeah, so that's always the trick. Balancing the commercial, and like we were saying about personal training, balancing the commercial element and doing the right thing is very tricky in this game. And you find that the complexity is not only in the exercise environment, it's also in the sports environment. And some of the things we'll discuss in this podcast is a lot of research around sports. And you'll find that there's always that tricky element in repeatability, for example. A lot of sports research that's done can never be repeated elsewhere. And then do you then adopt these research findings for you, or should you then have your own system? So, and sometimes you have a system that completely looks like it's wrong, and then it actually works for the athletes. But yeah, so there's like lots of these nuances, man.
I think I used to lean a lot towards research.
Yeah.
But research itself is limited because it's very difficult to replicate conditions within studies.
Absolutely.
And they're usually not done for very long.
Yes.
So you're working with someone for 2 years, you're using studies that are 6 weeks long, etc., etc. So it doesn't cater for a longer period most of the time. And so I see them most as guidelines.
Yes.
And then beyond that, it's your reasoning. Can you reason why you'd want to do this?
Yes.
And that essentially gets you a better, a more, how should I say it? A more individualized training program for your clients.
I agree with that 100%. There are certain nuances around training people. Like, I'll give you an example. When I started my career, I started in an athletics club in Bulawayo, and I had these young people that, would come and train with me. And we were sponsored with a gym, so like an old school gym in downtown, like dingy looking gym, but it had a good squat rack, they could do all the necessary strength work. And then Girls College, I don't know if you know Girls College in Bulawayo. It's a school in one of the suburbs in Bulawayo. They have a relatively okay sports field, and there's a part where there's like a little there's like a incline on like a hill where we used to do our hill training. So our training rotated between hill training, strength work, and track work. And in as much as eventually we had to close the club because we never got sponsored, we trained for about 6 months. You could see that the guys were improving in their times. And I mean, we didn't have a lot of equipment. We used to have stopwatches to time them. But you could see that the guys running faster. They're running, better. And I never had an injury. But when I look back now and think to myself, I wouldn't train them the same way because I'm now more injury adverse. I'm more, obviously my technical skill has improved quite a lot. I would not train them the same way. But back then, that training that I gave them used to work, and the boys were very motivated until we got to the point where we were like, no one is going to sponsor us to travel to athletic meetings. No one will sponsor us for good nutrition. No one will. So it became demotivating in that sense that we couldn't get funding. I mean, Zim, no one has money in Zim. No one has money. Exactly. So we got there. So in as much as my training might not have been how we train them now, but back then it still worked. For me, I measure training as when working with athletes. It's always about are you improving and are you not getting injured? Those are the two things I look at. Yeah.
I think if you're looking especially at training principles, recovery is going to be one of the
absolutely
top.
Yes.
So you want to have enough time to recover between sessions.
Absolutely.
And that includes nutrition.
Yes.
Sleep,
Yes.
And putting appropriate how you actually select which exercise goes before in what order and when during the week.
Yes.
Is very important. I think we're going to touch on
absolutely
principles.
Yes, we're going to touch on principles because those are foundational for me. Like it makes and of all the progression that have happened in sports and exercise science, I think the fundamentals of which are the principles still apply in every single aspect. If there's one thing that when you just want to improve your training, you look and see if you're applying those principles. You're actually in the right track. And one of the things that I used to do with my mentees is going back to that. So one of my sessions would be, look at your training, how good are you in your training? How can you put together a program? How do you determine your program? How do you think around putting together a training program? And I would then say to them, go back to these principles, and these principles are still as relevant as as anything. If there's one thing that's been consistent since my varsity days is the principles of training.
Yeah.
And that's still relevant today. All right, and then today, like we said, our main target person is the person that's now looking at taking their training further. All right, we're looking at that person that says, I've been at it for 3 months. I'm starting to enjoy it. It's no longer an effort to go to gym. It's no longer an effort to go for running. It's no longer an effort to go cycling. So it's no longer an effort for me to do my exercise activity. When we're saying to that person, how do we then guide you into actually now taking it to the next step? And again, we're not gonna say give you the training there's so many multiple facets of training, multiple nuances, so many things. But we want to give them those basics that will sort of take their training forward. All right. And you and I discussed. Foundationally, yes, there's so many components of fitness, but today we just want to look at strength training, and we also want to look at cardiovascular training, and those are really the two things. Okay, yeah.
I think determining whether you are ready to take it up a notch. I look at 3 things for an individual primarily. Well, I'm looking at if you're still making steady progress.
Yes.
Okay. So beginner, throw anything at them, they're going to improve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you still making those improvements? And if you are still making very good progress, it's really unlikely that you have to change too much.
Too much, yes.
Right?
Yes.
It starts becoming more complicated once you start hitting plateaus. Then you have to figure out then what should I do
Absolutely.
to continue improving.
Absolutely.
Then the second one is your form staying the same most of the time.
Yeah.
That is largely then skill.
Yeah.
And skill is trained and detrained. So if you do something over time, you build the skill, then you stop doing it, it diminishes somewhat.
Yeah.
Then the third would be safety.
Yes. Hey man, typical physiotherapist. That's the.
I mean, you said it yourself.
Yeah.
You want to prevent injury.
Yeah. And as you grow older, it's now actually the first thing on my mind as well. So this is why I stopped mountain biking, because I said to myself, if I fall and break something, then I can't do stuff for a long time. And I don't want to go to that where I can't. I want to be in a situation where I can't do stuff.
Yeah.
So I stopped mountain biking. I'll rather do my running, and I still do warrior race now and then. But I'm very cautious. So it's not like I'm fast and fancy like other guys. No, it's very cautious.
And I mean that's risk reward.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Exactly.
Is the accomplishment worth it?
Exactly.
Or are you getting prize money?
Yeah.
Those
Trust me, I would never get any prize money in any sport. Maybe golf. I've started golf recently, so maybe golf. Like golf is promising.
It's not too late.
Golf is promising though. Like golf is my swing is improving so nicely, bro. Like I've been playing for like a few days, and my swing is like getting better. So yeah, golf, there's a chance.
I mean, I think I'm the same. I don't think I would be able to. Well, I might be able to compete in some things, but to get to a top level, it's a bit late.
It's a bit late. Yeah,
too late.
It's okay, brother. do you know the percentage of top level athletes? Percentile of top level athletes compared to the world population? I think it's like 0.0000 something. Yeah,
it has to be.
It's a really tiny margin.
But I mean, that's why strength is really nice, because you can easily compare yourself to these athletes.
Yes.
And I think for most people it's also not as expensive. So it's something that's relatively easy to get into.
Yes.
And then you can make very good progress. I mean,
I like that.
You might not even compete, but you can get a squat of double your body weight, which is really where you start to say that you're.
I don't do normal squats, by the way. I do a different type of squat.
What kind of squat?
So I've got a weird shoulder impingement.
Yes.
So you see, I'm sure you already as a physio, you can see that this is a terrible, limited move. And I used to do bio for it to say, try and get your chest, your pecs are tight, but it's actually not my pecs. It literally feels like, I think where the scapula and the clavicle sort of attach, it literally feels like like there's pressure there, like when I go back. So I avoid the back squat mostly. Maybe I could do it with a lightweight, but I mostly do if I'm going to a gym where there's like a front with a squatting rack where I can hold the bar like that. That's what you call the squat rack.
The bar specifically.
Yeah, that particular bar.
I
I forgot the name. Yes. Yeah. So I use that bar, or I just do goblet squats.
Okay.
And because I'm not athletic, I have no issue with not being too heavy on my squat. But I kind of compensate with other leg stuff. So like obviously the usual leg press. Then I do lunge, step ups. Maybe Bulgarian split squats, so I kind of compensate with those. But yeah, so my squat is quite limited.
Okay, but then again, you're focusing on safety.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're not comfortable doing the exercise, then don't.
No, absolutely,
force
man.
it.
Absolutely. So let's go a little bit deeper on strength training, because strength training, if ever you are to do any form of training, and it should be the only training you do, it should be strength training.
Yes.
It comes with a lot of advantages.
100%.
The adaptations of strength training are advantageous not just for your aesthetic look, but they're advantageous for your health.
Yes.
Advantageous in the sense that your greatest metabolic organ is muscles. So we live in a world where most people suffer from some form of a metabolic condition. So could it be, and the most common one nowadays being diabetes. And diabetes basically is your body's inefficient or lack of completely ability to control its sugar. And with a little bit more muscles, we know that that's the science that's actually solid, where we know definitely that your metabolism improves, because the more muscle you have, the more sugar your body can shunt away by contributing to the muscle growth, to the glycogen storage in the muscles. So we know that happens. As a person that's been training for the past 3 months, what would you say is the next step in muscle training? And I'm also going to add my own thoughts around what their next step is, but what would you say would be the next step for someone who's been training? For the past 2 months, I've been doing this, I've been doing lunges, I've been experimenting with this, but now I think I'm into it. Okay. How do I progress it?
Firstly, like I said, I don't think you need to do too much different.
Yeah.
If strength is a performance goal.
Yes.
All right. So one of the first adaptations you get, the first adaptation is why you actually get strong. It's neurological.
Yes.
So your brain starts getting better at learning the skill,
yes.
the movement. It starts resisting the movement essentially a lot more. Your muscles able to fire a lot better. So those are the first things. And that goes on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Really probably only tapping out when you're like really close to max potential. So maybe the top athletes are really there.
Yeah.
So for them, it really becomes more about how much muscle mass they have.
Yes.
They've got that down. So for you, is to continue to focus on improving the form, making sure it's getting better and better. And the exercise changes as you progress.
Yes.
Because it simply just becomes more challenging, and different things become important as you continue.
Yes.
So you might be very comfortable to push, say, your bench press incorrectly, when it's still lighter, when you're a beginner. As you start to get better and better, you might find that, in fact, how you're doing it is not optimal.
Yes.
Then you have to start thinking about what is your grip width. You have to start thinking about how flat are your elbows, etc., etc. So my best advice is, if you're still making good progress, continue making good progress.
Okay.
And don't change much until there is a need to change.
I love that. I'm going to break down progress. I'm going to put it in smaller components so that the person that's out there kind of has a vision of what progress means. So progress could be increase of the amount of weight that you're lifting. What guideline would you work around in increasing the weight? What kind of guideline would you work with? What would you say to the person that's like, okay, I'm enjoying it now, I think I can do more. How would I then increase my weight as a newbie trainer? Or, well, not newbie anymore. I mean, in trainee, not to
Okay, well, you're looking really at a linear progression.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to start going too heavy. You probably started at
let me give you a scenario. Let me say I'm now benching, because I've been doing it for 3 months. So I can now do 10 reps with 40 kg. So 20 kg the bar, 10 kgs on each side. I really feel good because at one time the bar was too heavy on its own. Yeah. So now I want to progress my weights. What would be the ideal sort of way to go about it in your own way?
The recommendations really are for upper body to increase by 2.5 kilograms.
Okay.
When you do then reach your maximum, whatever your target is, so it's 10 reps, 3 sets.
Yes.
Once you can do that comfortably, then you can increase the weight. And it's usually 2.5 kilograms upper limb. For lower limb, you're looking at about 5 kgs.
Okay.
However, in the gyms, you might see that the smallest change you can make in the weight will be indeed then 5 kilograms. So if it's, say, for a bench press, it will be 2.5
each
so
side.
Kilograms.
Yes.
So then there's a relationship between, an inverse relationship between volume and intensity. So how much weight you move.
Yeah.
So if it is indeed then...
So volume and the amount of weight that you have. Yeah.
So if it is that you can only put on, say, something that's you can't then do another 10 reps or 8 reps for, then you simply aim to do fewer reps as the weight continues to increase.
Yeah. Okay. So basically then for the person out there, you wanna increase by as minimum weight available in your gym as possible, because we're talking in a commercial gym setting where your smallest plate is like 2.5 kilos. So you want to increase by as minimum weight as possible and be able to do a certain volume. So let's say, for example, you've set yourself up to doing, say, 10 repetitions as your maximum number or as your volume on average, and you're able to do it quite comfortable with the 40 kilos. You want to then add the minimum amount of weight, 2.5 kilos.
Yeah.
And you push as up to 10 again if you want to go up to 10. If you're not able to do up to 10, it means that weight then should stay there until you're able to push it up to 10 kgs.
Yes.
Yeah, which is perfect. And then as a guiding principle in terms of percentages, that would potentially represent anything between 5 to 10% of weight increase every time you increase, right? That could be a guiding principle you could work with. 5% maybe, 5%.
Somewhat, however, when you get for now, I guess that's fine. But when you get really heavy weights, then a 10% increase can be 20
a lot.
kgs.
Yeah, can be a lot, which is too intense. Which is too much.
Too much.
Okay.
I mean, there are different ways to progress as well. You can change how many sets you're doing in the workout. You can change the rest intervals.
Yes.
That's really going to affect your energy systems.
Yeah. Is there an advantage between doing lighter with higher repetitions or doing heavy with a few repetitions?
Well, it depends what your target is, what your goal is.
Yeah.
Doing lighter with more repetitions is typically
let's say the goal is hypertrophy. Let's say the goal, hypertrophy, by the way, I mean muscle building. So I think 99% of the people that go into gym, you are trying to build muscle.
Yeah.
So when we talk hypertrophy, that's our technical term for building muscle. Yeah.
Well, not really. There isn't too much of an advantage. Depending on how heavy you're going. Because it's really from about, say, 5 repetitions to 30. You can do just as good a job at building muscle. The issue at going, say, even beyond 12. So for me, for example, I don't necessarily like to go beyond, say, 13 reps because then I don't feel that I continue to push myself as well, because it gets so difficult and it's not difficult that your muscle, that you can't actually do it. It becomes difficult because the pain.
Yeah.
So you end up having mental limitations to continuing. So I really kept it for myself at about 13 reps.
Okay.
Sometimes, I might do like 20 or so.
Yeah.
But find something that's comfortable for you.
Yes.
It's quite a large range.
Yes.
Like 5 to 30
I think I personally, in my experience when I was a trainer, I would work within a rep range of 8 to 15. So 8 to 15 in the sense that I felt that it's appropriate stimulation for most people, and it also allows you to lift enough weight, but minimize your risk of injury, because there's always the risk of injury, especially most people that are non-athletic. When you start lifting heavier weights, you always have that small risk of injury. So you want to minimize the risk of injury by not making sure that the weights are not too heavy. So, and by the way, research actually says that in terms of hypertrophy, there's little advantage between heavy weights and light weights. Heavy weights, low repetitions, or lighter weights, high repetitions. So there's both of them still stimulate muscle growth as long as you're training, as long as the volume is enough, or you're training to fatigue. At the end of the day, the ideal way is that you train to some level of fatigue, and that level of fatigue is what stimulates whatever the benefits that come with your strength training.
So essentially, the most important thing, how the muscle grows, is going to be how much tension it accumulates.
Yeah.
And so essentially, it just ends up being that, yes, you're lifting lighter, but you do more repetitions.
Yes.
It equalizes, it cancels each other out. Higher, higher weights and lower repetitions.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that even comes into the tempo. There isn't a real reason.
What is a tempo? Well, what do you mean by tempo? For the benefit of someone out there,
is the time that you take in the upward movement of the lift, then the pause, and then the bottom movement of the lift, and the pause thereafter.
So I'm lifting my water bottle, right? This is my water bottle, and I'm doing, say, shoulder press. I'm going to push it up like that, and then so the tempo is me taking it to that level, and then hold it for a second, and then bring it down 2-3 seconds down. So that's my tempo. So it's that
a 1-1-3.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that quickness of movement. Yeah.
And so if you increase the amount of time, so you might hear time under tension.
Yeah.
But essentially, it doesn't matter, because then you can do fewer reps.
Yes.
If you did a faster tempo, you do more reps.
More reps. Yeah.
So again, it just cancels each other out.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter, except there are other considerations, like if it's rehabilitation. Then you want to think about time under tension, like which the tempo, and also it's just a lot safer to do a slower descent.
Than a quicker descent.
A quicker descent. And also, when you change, so say you're doing a squat and you lower, say you do it very rapidly, and then you change. That point where you change up generates a lot of force around the joint and by the muscle. So that is also potential for perhaps injury.
For an injury, yes. Yeah. Okay. So then we would say then to you as a person, you've been training, this is how you can progress your training. So you can increase your weight, but keep it to as minimum as possible, and make sure that you are maintaining the amount of repetitions that you prefer. So anything between 8 to 15 repetitions for an average person like us is a good amount of repetitions for your training. As you could lift quite a bit heavier with lesser repetitions, but if you don't have assistance, if you train by yourself, I would want to sort of discourage you on that part, in the sense that you then increase your risk of injury. And if you're not doing it right, or you haven't warmed up right, heavier weights increase your risk of injury. And when you get injured, you then can't train for a few weeks or a month or two, and then that kind of takes your training backwards, which brings us to a principle of training called reversibility. So you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most annoying thing about training, because you want to actually, kind of train and keep it on and like go for 2 months holiday and keep it on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that comes to like people ask you like, why do you still train? You look good or whatever. Like I have to keep training just to maintain.
To maintain,
To maintain, I'd have to do some training. Might not be as much as I'm doing now, but you still need to do something.
You still need to do,
So it's really a lifestyle change that you have to make, and
Absolutely.
just see yourself doing it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And I mean, you'll thank yourself when you're a lot older and you can play with your grandkids.
You
can run around. You see, even I have a friend, so her grandmom was over 100 years old.
Yeah.
But she lived by herself. She could do everything.
Wow.
She cleaned
Wow.
everything. I mean, that's probably not from her going to gym. I don't think she exercise like that, but it's just the movement,
the active life,
the active lifestyle is really good.
It's really good, yeah. So we go to gyms, by the way, because we have a very sedentary lifestyle. So if we still lived like how we lived in 1900, we probably wouldn't need a gym. Like the gym wouldn't make sense because your whole life is either you're in the fields farming, or you're in the factory lifting things, or you're walking somewhere. So it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
But we need to go to gym because we're now in the computer. Most careers require you to sit somewhere and work in a sitting position, and that's why there's a need for you to actually be doing strength training, because your muscles waste away. Like we spoke about the principle of reversibility. Your muscles actually waste away if you're not moving. Why are they wasting away? Your body's it's just a physics principle of energy conservation. Your every system in the world is designed to conserve energy, and your body will not keep muscles that it's not using. So it minimizes them to only the ones that you need, and this is why you lose muscle if you're not moving. So it's important to do the strength training. So you can progress it by we say it by increasing your weight. You can progress it also by sometimes increasing your repetitions. You can still get the benefit of building the muscle. You could also progress it, like you said. You could increase the intensity by maybe changing how you do the tempo that you lift, or you can or the rest period in between your sets. So you could increase the volume. You could change the exercise. So I think one thing that makes it exciting is that you have the ability to also change to different exercises. So let's say your primary exercise was squats. You could make your primary exercise maybe lunges or step ups. So you could do different things to keep it exciting, because it can easily get boring. But trust me, if you've done it for the past 3 months, you are into it. I think now the habit has picked up. So it's very, very okay. So those are the things you could change around your strength training. Now, cardio training. I came into personal training where at a time where, and it's not long ago, at a time where everyone would say that cardio is not that important. We do cardio just for fat burning, but just 30 minutes or 45 minutes. But the only thing you should be doing is weight training. What's your take on cardio training?
I think everything
sure, I'm thirsty
depends on a goal. What you want to achieve is essentially what's going to dictate what kind of training you do.
Yeah. What do you do for cardio? Well, what's your go to cardio?
Long distance road running.
Okay. So your road running is like proper, not like my like amble, like my break myself off everywhere.
I have 2 half marathons under my belt, so then I got injured, but that's a long story. But essentially, why would you want to do cardio training? Well, there are health benefits to it, and probably the first one people would be interested in is blood pressure. So essentially, your heart, as it pumps, is calculating how much blood it needs to move through the body.
Yes.
Every minute, to match your metabolic demands.
Yes.
So your energy demands. And so that would be your cardiac output. You can split those into stroke volume and heart rate. So stroke volume times heart rate is cardiac output. Stroke volume is how much blood can be pumped out with every beat. Okay, and then multiply that by how many times that happens in a minute.
Okay,
that's your cardiac output. And so essentially, your heart can regulate. It can keep the same cardiac output by either by decreasing heart rate and increasing blood pressure.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Vice versa, yeah. Okay.
It's interchangeable. And so what you might see when you start working out is that your heart rate starts to come down.
Yes.
And that's because, well, partly you become more efficient at metabolizing.
Okay.
So your energy systems, then you don't need as much blood supply to make the same amount of energy, essentially. It just gets a lot better at doing that.
Yes.
So both your blood pressure and your heart rate can come down. And that's important because an elevated heart rate and or blood pressure in the long term lead to the muscle of the heart getting too big and strong. If you see people with cardiac disease, that's essentially what's happening. And then that means that you can't get enough blood into the heart because the muscle's taking up so much space, and then that's how you eventually took heart failure. Yeah, so that's essentially the genesis of heart failure.
I see. Interesting. So then cardio training is important for the heart. That's basically what someone needs to know. There is because we, you know, and this is why I think the fitness industry and nutrition industry tend to mess people up because we always push these theories that are fashionable out there, and people get very confused. So for the longest time, people were not supposed to do cardio because, cardio is, it's not that important. And then HEAT came along. Then now, everyone is interested in HEAT and whatever. Yeah. So it's important just for the heart functionality. And one of the things that I know as well is that it keeps the elasticity of your blood vessels. Yes. In sort of good shape, and it allows just generally a more efficient function of your cardiovascular system, and it contributes, like you said, blood pressure is an important thing. Silent killer, by the way, blood pressure.
Very much.
Silent killer, and we take it for granted, but it's one of the most dangerous. And you don't feel it. And the thing with blood pressure, sometimes you don't feel anything.
Yeah, you go right to your doctor randomly, and
then suddenly, boom, your blood pressure is over the roof, and it damages organs, including your kidneys. It's a massive.
High blood pressures damage your organs.
Yeah.
But look, I think interestingly, even for people who are very advanced or elite athletes, they are damaging their hearts. So there's only so much.
Yeah, we've heard of athletes dropping down and dying. Yeah. What's happening there?
Well, there's some conspiracy, some flu that we had some time ago. But I think for now it's not really well known because it could just be that the spotlight is being shunned more.
Yes. But most of the time it's like soccer players. Like it's actually quite a phenomenon in soccer. Well, I suppose we've had that American football player that also who collapsed. Last year, they had to resuscitate them on the field. But we've seen more soccer players that have to be resuscitated. Quite a few dying as well.
I mean, essentially, how I see it is most things aren't linear. So you don't. So if you had, say, your health here and you had your training here, the more training you do, it's not necessarily improving your health.
Oh, right. See, yes.
So there's probably like a bell curve. So
yes.
Goes
I see what you mean. Yeah.
I see what you mean. Optimum point. Then beyond that, your training probably then becomes more detrimental to your health. But I mean, for those people, it is again risk reward.
Yes. Well, in high performance training, I think one of my professors emphasized that high performance training environment is not necessarily a healthy environment. So you must not assume that you are walking into, you got to be super fit and healthy. No, it's not necessarily a health environment. And over time, Fine. I mean, I haven't worked in like a super high performance team, but over time, as you learn in the game, is that people go to extremes in high performance training for you to get those results that they get, and it's definitely not healthy. Whether it's bodybuilding or it's whatever, like it's not really a very healthy.
You can probably see it on the faces of sports people.
Yeah.
Someone who's 27.
Have you seen what's this marathon runner? Kipchoge.
Yes.
If you meet Kipchoge in a dark alley, you'll think this old man, where is he going at night? But he's actually like what? How old is Kipchoge? Early 30s.
Yeah, must be early 30s.
I think he's early 30s. Yeah, he looks like.
But that's
very
the
old.
training stress. It beats up your body.
He trains 200. He doesn't average 200 kilometers a week.
Yeah.
That's a lot of running.
That is absolutely. And you can imagine, I mean, his joints are taking a battering. And I mean, I don't think sports people really go into the competition fresh.
Yeah.
They probably have a niggle here and there because of how much they have to do. And I mean, if you don't do it, your competition beats you.
Yeah.
Or you can't feed your family.
Yeah. It's cutthroat, eh? But like we think we've tough jobs or whatever.
Oh no.
Athletes it's cutthroat. It's either you're perfect or you're not. I think I look at sports as the same as space travel. So if you work for SpaceX, I like to follow SpaceX work because they're quite an innovative company. If you work for SpaceX, the work that you do, your performance result has to be 100%. If it's 99%, someone can die because that rocket can blow up because one small thing is not done right.
Sure.
And it's multiple moving parts and so many technical dynamics that you have to put in account to take that record up there. And one small thing, people die. It blows up. You lose money. It's as complex as it gets.
Yeah, no,
space
at
travel.
The extremes, things get a bit dicey. Very dicey.
Exactly. So with athletes, it's like that.
Yeah.
You are. Like I look at my classic example that I go to is 100 meters. If you are number one, you become a world champion, you get endorsements, you make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. If you are number 4, no one knows your name. Mm-hmm. No, everyone forgets you. And you know what the difference in time would be?
Milliseconds.
Probably 0.012 seconds.
Yeah. That's
the difference in your time. And the difference between making a lot of money and no one knows you.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, it's such a small time, but when you see the picture, like the finish, there is quite a
there's quite a gap.
Distance.
There's quite a gap. So in the high performance world, especially in that kind of sport, everything has to be perfect. Mm-hmm. So everything has to work perfectly for you to really get the time that you're looking, or to really get the success you're looking for. Anything that's off, you don't make it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't make it. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So then going back into cardiovascular training, then we've obviously said it's important for just especially dealing with blood pressure. What would you then give as a guideline for someone? So this person has been doing a run. Just say you've been running, but now your girlfriend has bought you this watch for your birthday. What's the best way of using it, especially for your cardiovascular training? I mean, this thing measures most things, but I think it's more helpful for your cardiovascular training. What would you say is would be a simple guideline to help you maximize the effectiveness of this thing, or maximize its importance in your training?
I think I will disagree with a lot of the conventional wisdom here.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Initially, that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Initially, okay, so how you actually build your fitness. So cardiovascularly fit, you'd be looking at VO2 max. Is probably...
What's VO2 max?
So that's the maximum oxygen consumption that you can maintain.
Okay. And these things, most of your watches will show you a VO2 max.
Yeah.
Well, what's the standard, by the way? I don't have it on top of my head. What's the good VO2 max?
So it's 25 to 40 milliliters.
25 to 40 milliliters. Okay. So your watch would basically show you. Like I've seen my VO2 max. Yeah.
The top athletes almost 100.
Yeah.
Get almost 100.
Yeah.
So that's what people usually use as cardiovascularly fit.
Yes.
And with when you are training, that's then when you begin training, that's probably what you're looking to improve. However, it doesn't make sense to start taking measurements and everything, because those readings as well can be influenced by how well you run.
Okay, wonderful. So, I like that you say that, because you know why? I've been running consistently this year. I think this is the most consistent I've ever been, and my VO2 max has just gone like slightly up, slightly up.
Yeah,
and it can be very discouraging.
Oh yes,
but I can tell that I'm doing those hills better.
Yes,
my time has gotten less.
Yes,
it's not spectacular, but I now know that so I've got this 5 kilometer training route that I use to test how my fitness has improved. So when I see that my time in that route is improving, then I know that my running has improved. And therefore, I don't look at the VO2 max as much, but I look at the heart rate.
Well, I mean, I don't think those are going to be very accurate on a watch. In a heart rate setting, well, heart rate itself, you'd be better served using a chest strap. It's got better contact.
Yes.
So, for example, if you don't properly fasten your watch, it can move, and that can disrupt the signal that you're getting.
But then it means I have to buy another different thing, you know.
Well, you just buy the chest strap. It's about I think the cheapest ones are about 1,000 rand.
Okay.
And then it connects
to your watch. Is it like a better brand? Is it like a good brand that you?
Yeah, I think there's Garmin. I think there's Garmin, which would be a good brand.
Okay.
But those are what athletes use as well.
Okay.
So that's top of the. Unless you're chesting invasively.
Yeah. Although I must say the newer versions of the Apple Watch, in comparison with the chest strap, I think it's almost. I think if the chest strap gives you 99% accuracy, the Apple Watch gives you about 96 to 97% accurate.
I think Apple Watch is
quite fairly top. It's quite
near the top.
It's quite a good. Garmin is terrible. I've seen the Garmin. I don't know if they have a newer version that's better, but I have had someone who used the Garmin and it was terrible. And then I had someone who was using Sunto, and also again, the technology for this wrist, the one way which measures from the wrist. Most people don't get it right. No, but Apple, I use an Apple, so it's relatively. I mean, it doesn't measure continuously. Unlike when you have a chest strap, you tend to measure continuously throughout your run. So this one measures, and then it kind of measures. I don't know how many intervals, but it's relatively accurate. You can see that it's relatively gives you an idea of what you're doing.
I mean, if you still are a few months into your running, I mean, that is not going to be very reliable. Even if it's very accurate, it's not going to be very reliable.
Okay.
Because to base your training on that is basing it on something. So the beginning of your training, there are a lot of different variables that shift, and there's a lot going on. So you might not get something that is going to be useful to use as an outcome measure.
Yes.
Very early on.
Very early on, yeah.
So, for example, someone who's very unfit, they can really only maybe run for a minute or so. And by that time, their heart rate is saying maybe it might not be all that high. They simply can't push themselves to their maximum, and they can't do it for very long at all. So it's instead of focusing on a lot of nuance, you just need to keep progressing slowly and building aerobic capacity. So building your VO2 max is done at very low effort.
Okay.
Shall I say?
So then, which brings us to something interesting. Now that you maintain that, now that you're saying that you at very low efforts, there's certain training zones that we work with, and we've got a zone, and I know there's about 5 or 6 training zones, five training zones in cardiovascular, and those are based on heart rate mostly. All right. What is the ideal zone? We've got zone 1, which is about, I think your heart rate is about 50 to 60% of your max. Just have them. I'll write them somewhere. So zone 1, so you've got zone 1, which is about 50 to 60% heart rate. You've got zone 2, where your heart rate is about 60 to 70%. You've got zone 3, where it goes from 70 to 80%. And then you've got zone 4, which goes 80 to 90%. And then zone 5, which is a 90 to 100%. So 90 to 100%, that's sprinting. That's literally something you can sustain for maximum maybe 20 to 30 seconds at most.
Yeah.
That's zone 5. Zone 4, maybe you could sustain that for how many minutes? 1 minute at most. Yeah, that's zone 4. And then the one that's zone 3, is in between. But the one that a lot of people are talking about is zone 2 training. Zone 2 training. Do you think that that's the most effective way of sort of training your cardiovascular training?
Just one correction.
Yes.
I think zone 4 you can do for about 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So
Zone 4,
that's
okay.
going to be a lactate threshold.
Lactate threshold, yeah. Okay,
That's
all
about
right.
that pace.
Yeah.
In terms of zone 1 and 2, zone 1 you usually use then, well, if you're really unfit, you might want to stay there.
Yeah.
But what seems to be the most effective for building your aerobic capacity is the zone 2 training.
Yes.
That you should be able to sustain. That's a running you can do for over an hour.
What's the easiest way of this person that's now into training of actually measuring their zones? I suppose the most effective way is to working with your heart rate. But how would I then know that I'm working at which zone? I think some gadgets might technically show you a little bit which zone you're working on, but how do I see it in my watch when it's just my heart rate? How would I know that this is my zone?
This is also where I disagree as well. While you have your predicted heart rate, which is 220 minus age,
yes,
which its history is shrouded in mystery.
Yes.
It doesn't, most citations of it don't come to an original source of where exactly it comes from.
Okay.
And the earliest evidence of something of the sort comes, I think, early, like 1930s or so.
Okay.
And it was devised for people with cardiac issues.
Yes.
So it was for more a clinical setting. And then people, they took a line of best fit. So they looked at the data there and they drew an arbitrary line.
Yes.
To, and then attributed that to a decrease in your heart rate as you age.
Yes.
And that does happen, but there are so many factors influencing it.
Yes.
It's really useless to use it. And there's an error of about 20 beats. So say you calculate that yours is 160. So 220 minus age, 160 is what you get. It could be 140 or it could be 180. That's too large a range for it to be useful.
Okay.
So I don't think that's a good one. Then there's the Covenant formula, which it attempts to also use your heart rate reserve. So it's actually you'll input your resting heart rate. However, it still uses predicted heart rate, which is not very good, I don't think. So what I would say is once you are really getting good at your running, and that's not going to be if you're doing it properly, it's not going to be for 8 months or so. 6 to 8 months is when you're going to start really getting good at it. Then what you'd rather do is actually do a test yourself. You can do it on a treadmill or a flat track.
Okay.
And you can then devise your maximum heart rate from actual data. So then you can start using your watch or your chest strap.
Okay.
And then
so you're saying like you could potentially then use a more technical way of devising your maximum heart rate on like a
individualized way.
And okay. Do you know places where someone can go to kind of get that done? Because obviously it's quite technical. It's not. It's I know it's technically straightforward for us because we have been hanging out in that space for a while. But for someone who is just a gym person, it's technically can be a little bit technical to do it. Where's there a place where I can go and just have it done?
I know definitely UJ has a sports lab.
UJ. So University of okay. What do you need to access those sports labs?
You can find the UJ one. So you can contact them. The Wits one, I haven't found a way to get.
Okay.
Maybe it's not open to the public.
Do you pay? Do you pay if it's Do you pay?
Yes.
Yes, you can come in, buddy. It's fine. You can come
UJ
in.
one,
Yeah, you pay.
The UJ
You're almost
one,
completing. Yeah, okay.
I think the UJ one you do pay. I think
Okay.
it's something around 600 rand or so.
All right.
So they can do that for you. However, I mean, if you don't want to pay, it's relatively easy. I mean, so what you do, you probably you have like 4 intervals. Okay, so you can start the treadmill. So your first 2 are really going to be warming up.
Yes.
So 3 minutes each, 2 minutes rest between.
All right.
So you start 3 minutes, very nice and light.
Yes.
The second one is
And
still
then
warm up. You increase it a bit more.
Okay.
The third one, you increase it even further. For the fourth one, you want to start slow and then gradually get to the fastest you can possibly run.
Okay. You know what we should do then on the, because we're going to build a TikTok page, an Instagram page for the site. I think we should put it up for the people that follow.
Yes.
And we just have a session where we just record it for someone, just a simple way of doing it to measure. Yeah. And then that will be quite helpful. All right. Cool, man. This has been good. I enjoyed it. So guys, strength training, to improve it, you can increase weights, you can increase reps, you can increase intensity. Those are the simple ways you can do it. Cardiovascular training, you can train in different zones of training. You can go intense, you can go slow, but all the different ways of doing your cardio are valid. Whether you're going on a long, slow run or you're doing the short, intense, it's valid. My key advice for you is to just enjoy it, because you're not professional. If you're like me, you'll never be a professional athlete, but there's so much benefits you have from cardio training and weight training. So just enjoy it. Just have a good time. We'll put up some stuff on our different social media platforms. We're still building it. But I want us to put up some stuff that will be helpful so that someone out there can have a look and learn stuff. But we're back again here in 2 weeks' time to talk about the next thing. All right. Cool, brother. Thank you, Nkaz. Any final words for the guys that are watching?
I think if you're getting into exercise, make sure it's something that you enjoy.
Love it.
That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. This has been Inside Modern Wellness Podcast, and we're looking forward to producing more content for you guys. And thank you for today. It's been great. Wonderful. Have a good day. Cheers.